Okay, we're recording, and Sean, it's good to see you. And it's been a while, and you just had a trip back to the States.
I did, yeah, yeah. It's been too long, man. I'm so glad that we reconnected. It's great to see you, and I hope all's well. I didn't get to see your last video on Free the Animal as I wanted to, so you might want to catch me up on that. But yeah, I just got back from Georgia actually, Jekyll Island, where I was filming with Mr. Jim Rickards and the rest of his strategic intelligence crew. I'm kind of adjacent to that. I write his free
Yeah,
newsletter.
yeah.
So it's
Well, I
they,
see.
they have some good company.
I get all the stuff. I read almost all of yours, and I read some of the other guys. But man, it's they pump out stuff like it's crazy. It's like
It's the
it's
never ending story.
everything now. I just sit there in awe, um, of everything that's going on in the world, and since January, since Trump got in, it's just been.
Ah,
How do you
it's
keep up? I can't keep up with it,
I
and
it, I don't blame you, man. I'll tell you, there are days where I wake up and go, "Geez, three things just happened. What the hell am I going to write about today?"
I know.
It's incredible. It just
Yeah,
boom 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 boom. Aldous Huxley, I think, won the future battle over Orwell. We're just inundated with stuff
yeah,
going on all the time, and with Trump, we don't even have 24-hour news cycles anymore. It's like 15-second tweeter, news cycles now. Everything changes every second. It's crazy.
well, I understand Trump's D-Day kind of strategy here,
Yeah, yeah, me too.
and it's because the left relies on narrative and then all of this lawfare and everything, but he's just so fast ahead of them.
Yeah,
Before they start to pump on something, it's another thing, and then
yeah.
another thing, and then another thing. And somebody put out, I don't know if you've watched any of his. I didn't actually know he'd done four of them, but he does these you know live cabinet meetings,
Yep.
and this last one, about 2 hours long. It was just brilliant, and I think the most apt description that someone I saw use is the Avengers. You know, that's
Yeah, they're
just the
just
feeling you get. And everybody is like working together. So much of that crosstalk, about working with him and him and him and him and him, pretty just damned amazing. And the whole thing, I maybe had a couple things to quibble with. My chief quibble, I think, is this thing of like rooting out anti-Semitism.
uh,
That's kind
he's captured though. That's the problem with him, and I'm probably the biggest Trump tart in Europe. But the problem is he is captured by the Israeli lobby, and
yeah,
APAC owns his ass. He took 200 million bucks off Sheldon Adelson's widow. He's gotta kind of do stuff, or his credibility is shot. Even though he's a second, like to me, he's a second term president. I would be kind of like, I think that's why he threw Netanyahu out and Mike Waltz out. He just said, "I've had enough of you guys. You're crazy warmongers. You're blowing everything up in Gaza. You're flattening the place. This is not a surgical strike to remove
yeah,
Hamas. Which I think everybody knows, but not everybody cares about.
uh,
And uh, and to be honest with you, I mean, it's what I was like. I don't give a shit about. But when you see just miles of flattened buildings, you're like,
yeah.
this is not what they say it is. We're talking with different vocabulary.
Well, I've said for a long time. I said, I'm not, I'm not anti-Semitic. It's a dumb word anyway,
Yeah,
you know, um, uh, because Arabs are Semites as well.
yeah, yeah. I
So
know. It's again,
yeah,
things take on different meanings wherever you
yeah,
use them,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
just it was a word invented to not question what Israel does, and
yeah,
again, it confuses the line between Israelis and Jews. And it also, and that's the thing that drives me nuts. Like if you're an anti-Zionist, you're an anti-Semite. It's like, what? Like, wait, what do you know? It's
Yeah.
not what they don't mean
Well,
the same thing.
my issue, and I'm not, like I say, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm not anti-Jew. I have plenty of Jew friends over the years, and some good relationships. But what I just can't stand is, since I'm a kid, I'm 64 years old, and since I'm a kid, not a few days passes where there's something Israel this, Israel that, blah 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 blah. They suck all the air out of this whole their issues. They choose to live in a place where they're surrounded by people that hate them. Okay, pay for it yourselves then.
Mate, it's funny. Christopher Hitchens talked about this a long time ago before he died. He said, I've never understood the reason why you have a highly intelligent population that just wants to be a bunch of peasant farmers. Like he goes, that's why I was against the idea of Israel, not me personally, but he said
Yeah,
that's why I'm against it. He goes, you've evolved from that. There's
yeah,
nothing under that dirt. Like, not only is it in the middle of a bunch of countries that hate you, there's no oil under there. Okay, there's
no,
oil kind of offshore from Gaza, which I'm sure they want once they figured out that was there. But that wasn't the reason for them going back to Israel. It was like God bequeathed me 2,000 years worth of property rights. It's like, oh really?
and I, I'm convinced that the chief reason for it is the way Christianity grew out of it, and so the Christianity
Oh,
is somehow beholden to
well,
Jews and Israel.
I'm like, yeah, well, that I mean, apparently, we're supposed to take care of them, but
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I think it was Saint Anselm. He said, Christianity is not an extension of Judaism; it's a repudiation of it.
yeah, yeah,
It's an entirely different religion. Yeah, it was built on it, but it's like, no, that's the old way. That's why we have an Old Testament, and this is the new way, and this
yeah,
is how we have to do it. And they're just, especially in the States, there are like the Jewish American lobby always makes me laugh because Republican presidents seem to kowtow to Israel, but they always
yeah,
vote Democrat. I've never understood that, and I never
yeah,
will understand that. I mean, it's
yeah,
idiotic because the British Jews have figured it out. They're all voting conservative now. They stopped voting for Labor because I don't know how many times Labor can pose with Muslim leaders going "I love you" and the Jews not figuring that out. So they figured that out in England. They haven't quite figured that out in the States yet, and it just cracks me up. But the bigger problem is the Christian Zionists. It's like, guys, can we just do our own thing and stop worrying about that? Because if you listen to Jeffrey Sachs, of all people, who
mhm,
I think he's gotten massively red pilled over the years. I mean, he was allegedly the guy who helped the oligarchs loot Russia, but I always thought that. But he was in an interview. He's like, listen, I wasn't even there, and the media set me up. So I didn't even know. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's consistent with what you're saying now. And what he's saying kind of now is regarding Israel is Netanyahu has controlled American foreign policy for the last 25 years, and it's been an absolute disaster. And I'm inclined to agree with that. I mean, we make
mhm,
decisions that are idiotic for America, like the Iraq War. I get Bushy wanted to get his dad, but we know it was all bullshit. Colin Powell wrecked his reputation over it, and I say it to people now. I'm like, listen, you got Obama, but when I was a kid, and you must have been in your early 20s, everybody wanted Colin Powell to be the first black president. Like it was the complete opposite of racism. It was like, oh my God, we've got a general who is, well, damn him with faint praise, articulate. He spoke excellent English. He was well educated. He was right under Norman Schwarzkopf. We loved him, and he
mhm,
disgraced himself at the UN. And it's that's what turned me into a libertarian. That
yeah,
because I was watching that from a training club. Like he is lying. He knows he's lying. Everybody knows he's lying. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Oh,
yeah.
terrible moment of my life. I'll never forget that.
The hey, one quick thing. I just noticed on your caption on your screen. Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Sorry. Hi everybody. And I am a fellow Free the Animal follower. if that's what we call ourselves. But my name is Sean Rigg. I write the Rude
You
Awakening
you
for
have
Paradigm
you
Press.
have, you have a life sentence
I have
too.
the life sentence. Yes, no,
Yes.
I love your stuff, man. I'm a big fan, and it's helped me out immensely.
Oh,
And
you mentioned you hadn't caught the video I put up yesterday. It's pretty
yeah,
short, but it's about clawing my way back. So I was in this great condo with a great view of all of Pattaya Bay. And I was renting it from a friend of mine, but we didn't have a formal lease. And he got a great offer to sell it. And the guy wanted to, occupy it. And so I had to leave. And I found a place 200 meters away. Nice place too, nice view, everything. But I just missed that other view, and so I first got a unit back in this building. That's the backside. It's a whole big sea view, but it's not the view of the bay. But at the same time I did that, I secured a lease for same unit I had before on the 15th, only 17th floor, same view.
nice. Oh, fantastic.
I move in there in 1 week. So I didn't even unpack. So I've been here for 6 weeks living out of crates and stuff because just use what I need. And so I'll be able to, it's a 5-floor move, down. So for 6.
Nice. That's great.
So anyway,
Good for you.
that's what that video is about. And it's got the views and everything and the new condo and all of that. I'm pretty happy and jazzed about it. And so
that's awesome.
And then so you write the Rude Awakening, which is what, Paradigm Press.
Paradigm Press. Yeah, it basically used to be Agora Financial. Now it's Paradigm Press. And I'm in Jim Rickards' stable. So if any of your listeners have heard about Jim, he's been scarily accurate over the past few years. He's getting more accurate, obviously, because of the nonsense that's going on in gold and silver.
Right.
In fact, finally, I think silver's waking up finally, which is nice.
So,
gold got trounced yesterday, but that's all right. That'll happen occasionally.
So your Rude Awakening comes out every day, I think, Monday through Friday. Yeah. And,
every day, Monday through Friday. And I also write a daily reckoning column on Thursdays. So I'm basically a writer. This is you haven't seen my new house, so this is the lounge that we've got. So my son's got his PlayStation here, but this is my office during the day.
And you live. I'm coming into you from Pattaya, Thailand, and Sean's coming to you from where in Italy?
It's northern Italy. So I'm about, let's call it 40 kilometers southeast of Turin, in a place called San Damiano d'Asti, like Asti Spumante. So the wine country. It's great. It's beautiful here, man. You got to come by. Come by. We just got our bathroom done finally. Yay! So we got new bathrooms for everybody.
I want to get out to Europe one of these days. Haven't been there in a while. So anyway, about current affairs.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular thing that's the hot thing right now in your mind, because Sean's a financial analyst, banking and finance and stuff like that. So that's primarily what he writes about.
That's why my hair fell out.
How is it affecting the markets and such like that?
I mean, first of all, let's talk about Liberation Day and what Trump tried to do and failed. It's a fail. He hasn't admitted that. He'll never admit it. That's okay, because he never admits failure. But he and Scott Bessent, who I think is the best Treasury Secretary that we've ever had, is, they rightly pointed out that a forever rising stock market and a forever rising real estate market doesn't help people trying to get on those ladders. So if you're young, although the millennials really got kind of screwed in all this, the younger generation seems to be doing better than their millennial counterparts. But they basically said, let's stop targeting the stock market. Let's stop bragging when the market hits a new high, because you can't buy in. Like, people are afraid to buy in, worried that it's going to fall out of bed. So what we're going to do instead is target the 10-year yield, and we're going to try to bring that down. And the reason why they're looking at the Treasury 10-year yield is because that's the base rate for credit cards and mortgages and auto loans, like rates that really affect people. So they wanted to bring that down. So when on Liberation Day, the Donald went, I'm going to raise taxes to 2,000% or whatever it was on everybody.
You're talking about the tariffs, right?
The tariffs, yeah. So that
Yeah.
day, I think it was in February, sorry, March. And the market fell out of bed, and he was happy with that. He's because he wants the money to flow from the equity market into the fixed income market, which would drive bond prices up and yields down. That's what he wants to do. The other reason why he wants to target the 10-year yield is because that idiot Janet Yellen left him a flaming $7.5 trillion turd on the White House doorsteps. She didn't refinance any of the debt long term that the United States needed to. She was rolling it into short term paper, which means you've got to constantly roll it. That's all right if yields are on the floor, but the second largest line item in the U.S. budget right now is the interest on the national debt. So they were trying to get the yields down, and it worked for like 5 minutes. It's like, ooh, 10-year got down to like 385. Now it's back up to 420. So it didn't work.
Now,
Unfortunately.
why do you think the so he made his announcement, and then like a few days later he said, okay, we're going to like set this aside for 3 months or something like that. Is that what he did?
Yeah, and then it's like 90 days and all this stuff. I mean, he's obfuscating because he and again, it depends on what you believe. If you really think America has all the cards and China is going to just get swallowed up in the earth, like you're pretty happy about this. I think the Chinese have far more cards than anybody, including many of my co-writers in my stable. If you've been to China and you've seen Shanghai and Beijing, and you've been on those high-speed rails that now connect to Hong Kong and Guangzhou and all that, China's doing okay. It's got problems that the West has, like it's got demographic issues, it's got a bloated real estate market, it's got too much money shifting around in the system, all Western problems. But the Western press looks at that and goes, "Look at these guys; they're in huge trouble." It's like, mirror much? It's like we got
Yeah.
the same problems, dude. So, I don't see the imminent demise of China. I just don't see it.
So why do you think then that the Liberation Day was a fail?
I think it was a fail because he didn't get the 10-year yield meaningfully down. Like you need to get it down to 3%. And right now, if I could I'll check for you. We got news right here. It's at 445. So it's basically 150 basis points higher than where a percent and a half higher than where he wants it.
Okay.
And again, it's okay. Like I'm okay with it. I'm not like, oh, you
Yeah.
failed and oh, you stink. It was a good shot, and he was
Mhm.
fighting the entire neoliberal establishment.
So now,
Yeah,
in principle, in terms of tariffs, um, uh, I see it as something that is sure it will raise the price of some goods, but if at the same time you can reduce taxes, then it's going to be a wash. But also, in
I
principle, I don't. If other countries are going to charge a certain tariff, which they all do, pretty much all do, then I don't get this objection to saying, okay, you're going to charge us 20%, we'll charge you 20% or
yeah,
25% or
I,
wherever the hell it is.
I'm with you, and it's just so funny because like tariffs are bad, but as soon as we announced tariff, everyone retaliated. It's like, well, if they're so bad, why are they retaliating? The only countries that really believe wholeheartedly in free trade are basically Hong Kong, which isn't its own country anymore, and Singapore because they have to. They can't charge it. They can't do it because their economies would literally collapse because they've only got 5 million people each. They don't have enough of production to overcome it. Whereas in the United States, the great thing about tariffs for the United States, and again, people will say, God doesn't know anything if you think tariffs are great. No, the United States consumes 70% of its GDP. Okay, So if you take that enormous GDP that we've got, in the 25 billion or 25 trillion right now, 70% of that is consumed. That is higher than all of our other industrialized brethren. Everyone else consumes about 60%. So what it kind of helps you do is get the consumption down. Okay, hopefully it grows your savings, and then you can invest more, and then
Yeah.
maybe even rebuild your manufacturing. Now that again, a lot of people are like, they're making fun of Howard Lutnick, and Lutnick doesn't do himself any favors, to be honest with you. But attempting to bring industries back or to build stuff on your own is
Now
not necessarily a cheeky endeavor.
Lutnick is who?
He's the Commerce Secretary.
Commerce Secretary. Okay, yeah.
He's the former head of Cantor Fitzgerald. He's a bit of a clown in front of the cameras. That he kind of wrecks his gravitas. But listen, I don't want people screwing in screws for to build iPhones. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, which he was like, oh, we could get all the people that in America do what the Chinese do. It's like nobody really wants to do that. Okay, but what you want to do is, and quite frankly, it's ridiculous. We are literally trading with our perceived enemy. Okay, with China. Now, again, if you believe they're our enemy, then what we're doing is absurd. If you don't, that's fine too. I jump from one to the other every other day. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly China wants to be the world's superpower, but does that make them the United States' enemy? That's a matter of perspective, I think. Okay, they want to be number one. They want to project their values, just like we want to project our values. But things like they own the rare earths right now. For them to sell us antimony, which, according to my great friend Byron King, ex-Navy guy like you, if you don't have antimony, you can't make bullets. Why would the Chinese sell us antimony? Like they're going to sell us the stuff we're going to use to kill them with. Like it's ridiculous. So I can see why they kind of want to go. We want to trade all the stuff that we can't kill each other with, but
are they the only source of it?
They are one of the prime sources in the world, and the other problem is the goddamn green lobby in the United States and Europe, but less of a problem in Europe vis-a-vis this because they don't have any resources anyway. But in the United States, the green lobby prohibits us from mining, which is just awful. We need to mine a shitload of stuff. And the green lobby is just retarded about this stuff. They're anti-human. They're not even like pro-green. They hate people.
Well, this another thing, like a lot of that stuff is kind of either being curtailed or going away or what other, in some cases, you look at Europe and you say, they've reached the point where shit's breaking,
your policy. I mean, I'm lucky to live in northern Italy where it's still a place that's very connected to the mainland of Europe. So I kind of like if you can imagine the line between Genoa and Venice, I live above that line. I'm not on the peninsula, so we're still very kind of integrated with Europe. But the stuff that Europe does is beyond parity. Like I remember when Fukushima happened back in 2011, and then the next day the Germans announced, in a country that never has earthquakes, they're going to cancel the whole nuclear plants. And I was like, this is 2011. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? 14 years later, they can't keep the lights on half the time. And if you cancel your nuclear and then tell the Russians you don't want their very cheap pipeline gas, you're going to wreck your industry, which they have done. And why France, an idiotic polity, has a disproportionate amount of power because they smartly rely on nuclear, which is far cleaner than it was when we were kids. Like Three Mile Island didn't even kill anybody. It's just it's ridiculous how we look at it. And if you look at Spain, when the lights went out 3 weeks ago, fucking idiots went to renewables and couldn't maintain the base load energy. Boom, lights go out everywhere. The country, it's stupid.
Yeah, that was an interesting cascade having to do with you don't have enough turbines on the system that keep the inertia of the whole thing going.
It's never going to work. Like, and again, I crack up because like a lot of people forget this because we have nice warm weather, in the summer here. But Europe is way higher up on the earth than America. like
Yeah.
way up higher. And wind turbines, we don't get enough wind here to make that work. Even in the North Sea, the wind stops
Yeah.
blowing occasionally. So wind
Yeah.
turbines don't work. And could you imagine being England right now, a country renowned the world over for no sunshine, trying to cover the place in nuclear, sorry, solar
Solar
panels?
panels.
It's just, oh,
I mean,
beyond parody.
it's a boondoggle, and the thing, and both the wind and the wind and the solar, they never, turn any. I mean, it costs so much
It
to
costs an insane amount.
insane amount to install and an insane amount to maintain.
Well,
I mean,
even with
imagine
the, yeah,
those turbines at sea. I'm an ex-Navy officer. You know, saltwater saltwater fucks up everything.
oh, it's going
It's
to
a
corrode.
constant maintenance job.
It's
You know,
awful, and the thing is too, like they if you did you watch Landman by any chance, that Taylor
yeah,
Sheridan show?
just a few
Fantastic.
weeks ago.
Oh, fantastic. But Billy
Oh,
Bob Thornton just tongue lashing that chick lawyer. It's the whole
yeah,
reason why I watch the show. But it's like they will never cover the carbon footprint of them being installed, let alone running over their useful economic life. It's never going to happen. And to me, like England is chock a block with coal. There's coal all over the United Kingdom. That Richard Burton was talking about this in an interview with Parkinson, who used to be like the Mike Douglas / Dick Cavett of England. And it was brilliant. He's like, my father was a miner, and he'd be under there, and he'd see like a vein of coal, and it was like his job every day. He wanted to make that perfect strike where he'd hit it once, and 20,000 tons of coal would come out. I'm sitting there like 20,000 tons of coal. Oh my god! Like I wouldn't wish a miner's life on anyone, but England has all those resources that
uh-huh.
they need, including North Sea oil, half of which is theirs. So that Norway has built their trillion-plus sovereign wealth fund on. England's got half that. So they've got all the oil they need. They got all the coal they need, and they got all the natty gas they need because that's what flares off the oil. And they're going renewable. It's like you are the dumbest fucking country I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I've got a British passport, and I miss my pints, but my
Well,
God, I can't imagine living there ever again. It's too
it's some of
stupid.
this. It's just not going to work.
No,
So
and they know it's not going to work. Like they
yeah,
smoke more opium than I've ever
yeah,
seen anybody. It's like, and this is Dmitry Orlov, who's a great Russian writer who lived in America, but he
yeah,
moved
yeah,
back to St. Petersburg. But he said this is what happens when the English majors are running your economy. It's like you
yeah.
don't have scientists. I wish I remember this. There's a Russian word for bullshit, but it's not bullshit. It's like scientifically impossible bullshit. Like they've
Mhm.
got a word for that. Like, and they're like the whole Western economy is that right
Yeah. But the good thing is I have a keen sense that or a good sense that that Trump's administration is pretty much in line with everything we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Trying to fucking restore sanity
yeah.
to the
And that's
world.
all it is. It's like, listen, I am not against renewable energy. Like, I think I am telling you right now, I'm in the market for a Tesla. Well, like
Yeah.
right now, we're looking at it because they're big. They can fit my family in it. They drive as far as I need them to drive. I could do. I'm not against the stuff. I am against the lunacy of putting an entire nation or region like the EU on a policy that's simply not sustainable, especially when you've got cheaper means of doing it. Like Europe prides itself on paying more for everything. Like
Yeah.
even the oil that they well, I'm sorry, how should we call it? Clandestinely took from Russia. So basically, the Indians would buy Russian crude at below cost. India would refine it, slap a "Made in India" friggin' sticker on the barrel, and sell it back to the Europeans at spot. It's
Uh-huh.
the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen. But the Europeans are like, yeah, yeah, we're going to do this. We're rich enough to do this. And it's like, listen, we don't have a huge amount of debt, but we are not rich enough to piss away blood and treasure. Okay, nobody is. Like, stop doing this. It absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah. So what's I gonna say here? So uh, yeah, I get the sense that everybody's on the same page, And I think, and going back to the tariffs, however,
Tariffs. I'm from New Jersey.
tariffs. So I think the biggest thing there is that, you know, it's bringing people to the table to do these deals.
Yeah.
The other thing I find amazing, we talked about how so much stuff is just happening, bam, 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 bam,
Yes.
and so much good stuff, and the Doge and say,
Yes.
and people scoff about that, like, oh, it's only 150 billion so far.
Oh,
Yeah, you got to
no.
look at, you've got to the cost that isn't just like, oh, I found 150 billion dollars. What it is it's like, okay, we've canceled this contract. It's the payments into the future that are the huge savings, and that's happening in all these departments, where all this stupid stuff, that unbelievable stupid stuff that
For me, mate, if Donald Trump played golf for the rest of his administration, killing U.S. aid would be enough for me. Like
yeah.
that is the greatest accomplishment of this administration. It will be by the end too. People, of course, if you're a leftist, you don't think that, but oh my God, I'm so happy.
I'm just spitting stuff out as it pops into my head, but as we talk. But I'll tell you, with that cabinet meeting, one of the guys that impresses me the most and surprises me the most is Rubio.
Yeah, Rubio. Well, again, Donald made so much fun of him in 2016.
I
It was
know.
like little Marco, and he was an idiot senator, and and all that. He's done a much better job at Sec State than I thought he would. Much better.
Every time he talks, he's like so point on, and he's sharp, and he's just very definitive. And I like how, when he had his turn to speak, he was after he said that, he made the joke that he was talking about some of the other people around the table that's helped him, and including Bobby Kennedy, because he's afraid to eat anything. So right, yeah, but he basically, he just outlined, the new foreign policy that basically comes down to, does this benefit America? And if it doesn't, it ain't happening.
Like, that's the thing. Like, for me, if you're the superpower, that's your privilege. It's like, listen, we're not going to do anything that'll harm us. I mean, yeah, all right. I don't mind them cutting little checks charitably for other people to help them out.
Yeah.
I honestly don't, because we just print that shit up. That's what happens when you've got the world's reserve currency. But like the reason why I'm particularly happy with Rubio is I think he is the only person that could at least step in the ring with Sergei Lavrov. Because to me, Lavrov is the greatest diplomat statesman on the planet today, even more so than Putin, more so than Trump, certainly more than anything we got in Europe. Georgia accepted, she's doing quite well. But it's Lavrov, to me, he's a fucking man's man who doesn't put up with any bullshit, and he knows his shit inside out, upside down. You're never gonna fool this guy. So you can't go in there like your normal American. We're playing poker. Let's bluff. That shit ain't gonna work with the Russians. Not right now. Certainly not with Lavrov. You've got to have a guy in there prepped up to the moon who can have a man-to-man conversation with what I'll call the greatest statesman of our age, Lavrov. And I'm more optimistic about that with Rubio than I would with any of his predecessors. I mean, I think Tony Blinken was a fucking joke. We're Sec State in a long time. Hillary certainly wouldn't have been able to do anything as Sec State. Powell as a general, I don't think he would have been any good. We'd have to go back to like James Baker to get a guy who could sit down with Lavrov and have a advanced conversation.
Right. Because I've never been impressed by Secretary of State since Baker.
Yeah. I mean, Maddie Albright was like, "Yay, we got a first chick in there," but then she's like, "Yay, we killed 500,000 Iraqi kids." It's like, You can't fall for that on camera. Like that, you're an idiot. Like
Mm.
that kind of stuff. Like you need, and again, I'm gonna get in trouble here. You need high IQ and completely prepared. You need to be ready for anything the Russians going to throw at you. Primarily, no. All they ever do is say no. So, like, how do you deal with the literal constant rejection of those negotiations? Because now we don't want to do this. Now we don't. What about this? No, we don't want to do that. How do you keep coming back? How do you forge a deal? And that's I wrote an article about this about a month ago. How diplomacy in the modern age is just childlike. It's done with crayons. Like if you read about the old time, like Kissinger, I got Kissinger's book on diplomacy somewhere around here. Diplomats were put in embassies and granted safe passage because you had to talk to people you didn't like. It wasn't for circle jerking at dinner parties with your allies. That's not diplomacy. That's a waste of taxpayer funds. How do
Oh,
you forge deals with the people that you really disagree with?
yeah, yeah. So what's your tea leaves on Russia Ukraine?
I mean, oh god, Ukraine's two great sins. They listened to neocons with Ukrainian and Lithuanian ancestry who have a grievance against Russia that were willing to use American assets to settle that grievance. Okay, and
Mhm.
that's specifically Kagan, Newland. I'm not sure Bill Kristol fits into that, but he's Kagan's best buddy. So they're all like, let's get in there. Let's use Ukraine as the vanguard to literally break Russia up. The second big sin is that Ukraine just didn't lose fast enough, and that's partly Putin's fault because Putin thought he was going to march into Kiev as a liberator, and that was his probably first and maybe only mistake. Like big mistake was like on day one. Like you should just blow the place apart and say it's mine, and it would have saved us. It would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives because the Ukrainians just been rolled over. They've lost at least 1 million. I'm not sure if it's still 8-to-1 combat deaths ratio or anything like that, but I reckon what will happen because Europe has absolutely no cards to play in this. Okay,
Mhm.
this will be the Ukraine getting broken up into probably 5 pieces. I reckon at the end of the day, Russia will take everything east of the Dnieper, and they'll literally bisect the country. That'll be Russia. Then
Mhm.
you'll have the little bit that is Hungarian go to the Hungarians. You'll have Lviv go to Poland, and you'll have probably Hungary and Romania will take the two little bits, and then
Mhm.
that rump state that's left will be admitted into the European Union that has no fucking resources. Everything that's worth anything is in the East. And the Europeans will go, we had a victory. Ukraine's now in the EU. Russia will go, great. We don't give a shit because we've got our southern flank protected now because we own everything east of the Dnieper. And the United States will be like, thank God we're finally out of this shit. Can we move on to something else? Because that was the biggest thing. America was definitely going to get bored of this. Even Barack Obama said, I think it was back in 2013, he's like, Ukraine is no interest of ours. We have absolutely no interest in Ukraine.
Mhm.
And Russia has a very big bone in Ukraine because you can literally march from Paris through Kiev, just going over a couple bridges basically to get into southern Russia. Like they are completely exposed there. That's what Mearsheimer's been talking about the whole time. And Jeffrey Sachs and all these other guys who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Because the rest of them don't. The rest of them are just like, yeah, Russia invaded a sovereign country. It's like I stand next to people at dinner parties and I like punch their shoulder very gently. How long are you going to put up with this before you knock me out? Okay, I'm Ukraine. You're going to be Russia. You're going to knock my ass out sooner or
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And how about NATO?
Oh, it's just such a waste of blood and treasure now. If we had a perfect world, okay, we would have we'd have America just basically say, if you get invaded, we will help you. We are not stationing 140,000 troops in Germany or whatever we got there now. We've got
Yeah.
40 Air Force bases in Italy. I had no idea. We've got just a gigantic amount of American troops in Italy. Why? Why are they here? Like, and I don't mind. Like, they don't bother anybody. I have nothing against American servicemen at all. But what? Why here? What are you doing here? Um, so I would love to see an American withdrawal. At least a 95% withdrawal. You leave a couple people here just to help out if they need any help. In a perfect world, cheap Russian pipeline gas would be getting through Nord Stream to Germany. Germany would use that to build amazing stuff and sell that to the middle classes of America and China. Chinese would be perfectly happy with that. Um, the reason why that hasn't happened is because America is, I think, acutely aware of moving from Alfred Thayer Mann's naval world, where you got to protect sea routes for trade,
Yeah.
to Halford Mackinder's World Island, because it makes sense, even though I disagree with America's reaction to it. But if you've got Russia, China, and Germany on the big island, you don't really need America. America dies from obsolescence and distance rather than any warfare. Because
Mhm.
the thing that allowed America to grow was two gigantic oceans and two very disorganized neighbors, who were never going to invade you. You had this huge bubble, but that bubble doesn't serve you so well, I think, in the 21st, 22nd centuries.
The just shifting gears a little bit here. The one thing that I really don't see much progress being made on is the make America healthy again. It's just too far gone, and
It's
it ain't about food dyes. You know,
let's piss ourselves laughing for a second. So, if you, I'm sure none of your readers know this, but and I'm not even sure if you know this, but my parents moved here from
Mm.
America. They live right downstairs. We got a nice big house. Everyone's in the house, and
Okay.
we've finally learned how to be happy together. It's great. So, but my mother has always been very overweight. Her whole adult life, she's just been a very plump woman. And my dad, who was at as peak, he's 6'8", very tall man, but he developed a really big paunch for the first time. He was always one of those gangly truck drivers, but by the time he got to his mid 70s, he started getting a belly. They've moved here now. They have been here for almost 18 months now. Okay, my mother has lost 60 pounds, and my dad has lost that paunch. He's thin as a rail now, and they barely get up out of their recliner, dude. This is not about exercise. This is just eating good food without shit in it. Because
Yeah.
Italy, everything here is natural, and Italy, again, not entirely fair to the rest of the world, but it's got the most diverse biome, whatever you call it, on the planet. Apparently, we've got like 6,700 different species of all sorts of stuff. So it's extremely healthy. Like Italian food's great with all the stuff we put in it, but just the ingredients
Mhm.
are super fresh, super, no preservatives. You're not allowed to put any of that shit in. No food dyes. All that's banned in the EU anyway. If you take a Heinz ketchup, you look
Oh
at the
yeah,
back of the labels. They're entirely different things here
I
than they
see
are in the
that.
States.
It's same thing here in Thailand.
Yeah,
Um, even if I can't read the ingredients list, it's a short list typically.
exactly. Like,
You
I
know,
mean, if you take
I,
A Heinz ketchup here is like tomato, acetic acid, and salt and pepper. Like it's four
yeah,
ingredients. That's it.
yeah. I I remember one time some years ago when I was still in the States, there was a Baskin Robbins ice cream place, and I was walking from a restaurant I was at home, and I'll grab a pint of ice cream. So I grabbed a pint of ice cream, and I went home and I put it in the refrigerator. As I did, the pint turned this way, and the ingredient list must have been 3 inches long.
Yeah.
And if you get Haagen Dazs ice cream, it's like cream, milk, eggs,
Yeah.
and sugar, and then whatever flavor, whether it's chocolate or berries or whatever the hell it is, you
That's
know.
right. That's right, man. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why my mother, when she got here, she's like, "Oh my God, everyone's thin." I'm like, "Yeah, they eat what they want, but it's not a lot of shit, and they walk all over the place. Everyone walks here,
right.
So it's funny because you get like a lot of people on X, and they're like, "Well, if you walk 20,000 steps every day, you're gonna lose a lot of weight when you're in Italy." I'm like, "It ain't the steps, dude. It really isn't. It's the
The
food."
food.
And I'd
So
love to see Bobby
qual-
Kennedy do more, but he's
quality
got
food.
quality food with not a lot of ingredients. Like, and it's
Yeah.
funny, like even when I make stuff downstairs, like Pam, like we all kind of cook in the house, but like when I'm making steaks, like I will go to my macellaria, which is butcher in Italian, and he'll take this fresh thing of meat and just slice it right in front of me. And I take those steaks and I just throw them on the grill immediately, practically. And they give us the bone marrow bones too, which I love. I eat bone marrow. I think it's fantastic for you. And dude, literally, the only thing goes on my steak, like I'll fry them in butter until I get my barbecue. I need to get that. Just reminded myself. Salt and pepper, rosemary and thyme. We're done. That's it. There's nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's and and then frequency, quantity. But I just don't see how American food culture and just the amount of crap food that people eat, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I say
And
that
then,
to my wife
then
too.
also this culture of more is better, big portion sizes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was at Wolfgang Puck's, like it was one of his takeaway things at the airport once, and I just asked for it was a chicken Caesar salad, and I'll never
Uh,
forget because I had my hand, when you got your bag on and you take like the styrofoam plate, the
mm,
the salad was so heavy the plate cracked in my hand. I'm like, dude, this weighs like it's like I'm doing deadlifts with this thing. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, yeah. A salad too, yeah,
It was a salad. It was a chicken
yeah,
salad.
yeah.
Too funny, man. But yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, what else do you think is what do you think's going on in the Trump administration that's good? Something else.
Oh well, okay. Just to reiterate, my favorite things going on right now is that first Doge, and hopefully he doesn't lose Elon completely, because that like I said, if USA dies, which it hasn't yet, because that son of a bitch Mike Johnson has not fucking codified it, and they haven't put it to a vote yet in the House. Like, let me start with my biggest fear: all these executive orders get overturned at the next Democratic administration because Mike Johnson hasn't done his goddamn job in the House, turning that into legislation. That that is like that. This could all get overturned in 2028 because I think he's going to get killed in the midterms, rightly or wrongly. I think he's going to lose the midterms. And if he loses the midterms, like every incumbent president does, that's not any rocket science. But I'm worried about JD Vance in 2028. I don't think he's a shoe in, unless again you get white guys, Spanish guys, and the Catholic guys to vote Republican again, which can happen. They just got to get out because that's what
Yeah,
won the last election. To my absolute shock, because Trump won the southern border. Like that's not supposed to happen.
yeah,
And he won the southern border, and he wrecked the Dems' strategy on taking Texas. They're never going to get Texas down. That's just forget it.
yeah.
But I love the cost cutting because that's what needs to happen. I don't love the absolute refusal to contemplate a cut to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. I'm not saying put people out and starve them. They need to get rid of the administrative staffs for all that. There's just way too many people working in that business now. Um, Similarly, I love what he's doing to universities. Like fuck Harvard. Like absolutely fuck
Yeah.
that. Like it's just great. And not because the anti-Semitic stuff. Again, I think we agree on that. But man, why is a university with a $58 billion endowment getting any federal funding
Anyway,
whatsoever? What?
and
Any of it? Any of it? All those Ivy Leagues getting federal funding is a motherfucking disgrace. I'm sorry, out all of it, and that includes my alma mater. We've got a new pope, yay! But no federal funding for any of this shit. And let's pick on my school, which is now $67,000 a year tuition? You out of your fucking mind. I paid 22 back in the 90s and I didn't think it was worth it. Like it's ludicrous what they are
Do you
charging
think,
nowadays.
do you think we'd
Ludicrous.
have the do you think we'd have the first American Pope in
Now, I did
Catholic history
I
without
have
Trump?
uh no, and the JD Vance assassination jokes only got funnier. Like I because he was the last guy that saw Francis before he snuffed it. And, yeah, remind me to send JD Vance a thank you card for that. But but it's yeah, I know. I don't think it would have happened without Trump. I can't believe it actually happened. And I mean, I just hope that he's not as liberal as Francis, and it looks like he's not. That's
Yeah,
because
that was
that
my
yeah,
sense of it. You know,
he was a loyal lieutenant, but he's a lot more conservative because Francis was a disaster. I mean,
uh,
I don't give a shit if Catholics think he is like Christ's bishop on earth. He was an absolute disaster in Italy. Funnily enough, it is just an open secret that he was gay. Like people just crack up like when you like try to talk about Francis being straight. It's like yeah, whatever. Like it's the Italians are
uh,
like nah. Yeah, it's really funny, and the whole top of the church, basically is that New Yorker article that came out like 10 years ago is absolutely accurate. The whole top of the house just needs to be decapitated. They need to implement reforms to get it back to where it
you know,
was.
no matter what your religion is, or whether you have one or not, I
Mm.
think one of the hallmarks of religion is it doesn't change much ever. That's
Yes,
kind of the
yes,
point,
yes.
right?
That's the point. It's not supposed to change, and this whole thing, like and again, I'm not a scholar on Vatican II. I wish I knew more about it. But they changed the entry requirements for the priesthood from the most intransigent people, who will never change, to the most transigent because they wanted to market the Catholic Church as something for the modern world, which I think is a huge mistake. And what's interesting about it, the most thriving part of the Catholic community right now are the covenant communities, where they're like, you live in our community, you play by these rules, we're going to be best friends forever. And if you break these rules, you're out. And they're
There's
thriving.
there's this I live in Pattaya, Thailand, and big nightlife scene and
Yes,
everything.
indeed.
There's this one go-go bar, a rather small one on Beach Road called Tahitian Queen. It's been there since 1978. And the first time I walked in was 1986 when I was 25 years old. And I've been there a million times. But what's great about it is it doesn't change. It's the same decor, the same Tahiti thing, and the black lights and everything, and the music videos, 70s and 80s rock and roll music videos, right?
Okay, I'm coming to visit. You
Same,
sold me.
same music, same everything, right? So you know what I tell people? I say I love Tahitian Queen. I love to go there because it never changes. It's the same when it was like when I first walk in. I said it changes less than the Catholic Church. So that's my joke.
That's brilliant. But yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, I can't stand like they did this in London. Like, so I lived in London from 1999 to 2009, and about 2006, they started modernizing a lot of the bars and the pubs, and I'm like, why are you doing this? You're taking away the it was awful. It was like everything was IKEA all of a sudden. I'm like, dude, what are you
Yeah,
doing? And I'm with you. I like things not changing. Like if you want to change stuff, invent a new thing. That's fine,
yeah,
but
yeah.
don't change my old shit. Like I want my old shit.
Now I'm going to start to wrap this up here.
Okay.
An hour is good, and so I was thinking when I was, to make this me, I'd gone out to lunch with somebody. I said, I don't want to drive the motorbike in the heat, and that I can zip through traffic on the motorbike. So I take a taxi, and then on the way back, I'm like, shit, I got to get back to Sean's to Sean's meeting. But I was thinking as I was over there, I said, I I go through my ex and feed on Facebook every day. And one of the most just remarkable things is how intransigent the left is on every. I mean, they could take the greatest story in the world, and they'll either ignore it happened, or they'll downplay it, or they'll completely misrepresent it.
Yeah.
And then these other guys, you can see on if like you use the X feed, that is the one that's for you, where it's kind of a curated feed. You get some left stuff in there and people, and I'm like, and same on my Facebook. I've got a lot of Facebook friends that are lefties, and it's like, are you serious? It's just
leftism has become a mental illness, mate. I'm with you. What's really interesting. I don't know if you saw the story about the Afrikaners in South
Mhm.
Africa who have been taken in as refugees in the United States by Trump, and of course it's man, woman, and children, and they're waving American flags. They're already patriotic,
Yeah.
And the CNN. They had Scott Jennings, who I think is just brilliant. Like they've got him on there, the token
Oh
sensible
yeah, the
guy.
token right guy. Yeah.
And they've got and then they've got these black chicks on the panel who are like, well, it's not really a genocide. I don't know why they take it. It's like, are you fucking serious? Like, what if Africa is for Africans and these guys can't get ancestral passports because of this
Uh-huh.
stupid time lock? Like, where are they supposed to go? Like, it's absolutely staggering, the ignorance that comes out of the left. I can't deal with them, and that's why I stopped arguing with them, because when you argue, like if you and I were arguing over a point, like, I know you've got a really nice base of knowledge. I know generally where you're coming from. I know you were in the Navy. I know you're technically proficient. I know there's I know a lot of stuff. So we can have an argument where we're not going back to like first principles, like, wait, I don't think you understand what this even means, like things like genocide and apartheid and all that stuff.
Right.
Where, like, when you're watching CNN, it's like, you start thinking of Mandy Patinkin in Princess Bride, like, you're using that word, but I don't think you know what it means. And they really don't.
It's amazing. I'm not arguing hardly at all, as far far less than I used to with people, and I'm more like, you know what? We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well,
Right.
what I say when I disagree now is maybe you're right. Not to lefties. I'm disengaged from most of them, and I don't mind that they're not my friends anymore. Like, a lot of them have just been like, "You're too much of a Trump tart for me." It's like, fine, that's all right. But the other thing that because I write the Rude, like, everything I think is documented now over the past 4 years. I've been writing the Rude for about 4 years now, and that's about eight. It's got to be about 800 articles. So like you, like Free the Animal, except yours has been going on for 25 years, and you've got thousands and thousands of articles. Like, at least your stuff, how consistent you are,
Yeah.
because it's all right there. I know how consistent
And
I've been
and
because it's all right there.
and and I've had amazing number. People tell me all the time, how do you get this stuff right so often? Yeah, I go down the list, but when I get something wrong, I own it,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But I think that's, and that's another characteristic of people on, well, let's call it our team. I don't know, we would just call ourselves right wing or whatever kind of a thing you want to put on there. But it's the results that matter, even with ourselves, and we hold ourselves to that standard. So and I've written whole rudes like, I totally got this wrong. I'm sorry. Like, there have been a
Yeah.
couple of them where I've had to write that. Like, I sold my entire stock portfolio for no reason once. I was like, I got spooked, and I'm like, I did that. Don't ever do that. That's stupid. It cost me, at one point I was down like 200 grand because of that mistake. It was like, Sean, you're 50 years old. You can't make those fucking mistakes. Like, that's just retarded what you did, because I panicked. And luckily I made it all back and it's all fine. But it's all about the results. Like, if I said this and this came out great, you know, even if I got my reason, like if I got my reasoning wrong, I'd still like, all right, we got it right for the wrong reason, but that's okay. But
Yeah.
if it's something I've totally got wrong, it's like, listen, results fucking matter in this world. You can't just sit there and go, oh, well, I intended this, you know, and that's fine. Like, you know, intentions are good and all that, but they don't pay the rent, man. And, you know, especially when you've got, you know, you've got your huge readership, I've got my readership, and we've got obligations to people. You know, we've got a fiduciary duty to them to say, hey, listen, you know, we're doing the level best we can, you know, and sometimes, you know, like all humans, unfortunately, we're going to get it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens. And then, you know, it's the, oh, I just read this the other day. I wish I remember who said it, but, you know, they said, you know, being great at what you do is the simultaneous ability to forget you know, to forget and learn at the same time. You know, like forget the mistakes and continue on, but learn from that same mistake that you're supposed to forget.
Yeah.
I've got to find that quote. It's a great quote.
Okay, we're at an hour, and you know this it's a weird one because it's like there's too much to talk about that you're just bouncing all. Did you get that sense? I'm like we're
Oh,
just
totally. There's a gazillion things, man. I don't even know if we set one topic. I'm not sure we can even stick to it.
yeah,
Too
it's
many
crazy,
tangents nowadays.
crazy. Okay, hey, I'm gonna stop the recording and stay on
Okay.
with me for a bit here. Do, 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 do. And record.